Good morning. Welcome to Nuggets in the Word. My name is Karen, and we have been studying in the book of Joshua. I did take a break for a few weeks, and then I spoke a couple of weeks ago about dreams and visions and getting a word from the Lord, that type of thing. So, back to the book of Joshua. So we are now in chapter 10, 11, and 12. So Joshua um, brought the children of Israel across the Jordan River. Um, they conquered Jericho. They conquered Ai. They were about to go into Gibeon. Okay, and they coerced Joshua and the leaders into making a peace treaty with them. Well, Joshua and the leaders, instead of praying about it first and talking to the Lord and getting his instruction on it, they did not. They just went ahead and made the peace treaty, believing that what they were being told was the truth. So they made a peace treaty with Gibeon, and then they found out that the Gibeonites were neighbors, were actually living very, very close. So the consequence to the Gibeonites lying about it is in at the end of chapter 9. It says, "You are now under a curse. You will never be released from service as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God." And they answered Joshua, "Your servants were clearly told how the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you the whole land and to wipe out all its inhabitants from before you. So we feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you." So they now had a treaty with the Gibeonites. Adoni Zedek, the king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken Ai and totally destroyed it, in doing to Ai and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and that the people of Gibeon had made their treaty of peace with Israel and had become their allies. He and his people were very much alarmed at this because Gibeon was an important city, like one of the royal cities. It was larger than Ai, and its men were good fighters. So Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, appealed to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, the king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon. "Come up and help me to attack Gibeon," he said, "because it has made peace with Joshua and the Israelites." Now that tells me that they were also afraid, not just of Joshua, but now, because Joshua and the Israelites had allied with Gibeon, and the Gibeons were already good fighters, they were afraid that they were next, which they were next on the list. So the 5 kings of the Amorites, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon, joined forces. They moved up with all their troops, and they took positions against Gibeon and attacked it. However, Joshua and the Israelites stepped in to help them. Okay, and I'm going to stop right there because I've been curious. Who are all these people? Who are these people? That's the name of this video. Who are these people that surround us? My goodness. And one thing I might say, just as in a general sense, the reason the Lord told them to wipe out all these peoples is because, well, there were several factors, but the Lord knew that these people would not leave the Israelites alone. He knew they would irritate them and harass them and oppress them until it was ridiculous. So that's why he told them, "Be strong, take courage. I am with you in battle. I will help you fight these battles. Let's get these people out of here." So, who are these people that need to go away? And I think when I describe some of these people, it's going to sound really familiar to, groups that we kind of know about today. So the Amorites, this was a general term for all of the people who lived in this area. They were Amorites. They were mostly, they were mostly mountain people, and they had this society where they would pawn things. And it's because I looked up the definitions in the Strong's Exhaustive from the Hebrew meaning of who these people were. Um, the name Amorites, they would pawn things, or they would lend with security. In other words, yeah, I'll lend you some money, but you're going to pay me interest back. The other name, the other meaning of Amorites means to entangle. They it means to entangle somebody. And you know, when you loan somebody money, you are entangled with them. Or when you make them feel, when you do something or they do something and there's a feeling of obligation, you become entangled with one another. And that's how these Amorites were with new people who came into their area. And so, and also they were idol worshippers there. The name Amorites, um, is connected to, but not necessarily, they're not necessarily named for this god, but they're connected to this god named Amuru, 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 who was the god of the region at that time. So that's who the Amorites were. And then there were the Jebusites. They were from the city of Jebus, and these people were descendants of Canaan, who was the grandson of Noah. Now, Canaan's dad, Ham, he was the one, after Noah came off the ark. The soil was really good. Noah built a vineyard, or he planted a vineyard, and then he harvested the grapes and he made wine. Well, he got drunk one night, and the Bible says in Genesis chapter 8, actually, it's in Genesis chapter 9 that this story takes place. And this is why the Canaanites were a cursed people. So, the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These were the three sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the whole earth. Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Now, the Bible doesn't explain exactly what that meant. So, and we're not going to speculate. I've heard a lot of different explanations for it, and we don't need to go into that. The point is, here's the point of that. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backward and uncovered covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father naked. When Noah woke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves will be to his brothers." He also said, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth." After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. Noah lived a total of 950 years, and then he died. So the fact that Ham walked in on his dad when he was naked, and again, I'm not going to speculate what all that means, but it was disrespectful for him to do what he did, because whatever it was he saw, he went and tattled to his brothers. We don't know his attitude or anything, but he went and told his brothers. They turned around and, out of respect for their father, covered him up, and they walked in backwards so they would not see him. So whatever was going on there, they did not want to see it. They were at least attempting to be respectful about it. So that's why Canaan was cursed. So that meant that all of his descendants at that point were cursed as well. So all of these people, the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Hittites, the Hivites, and the Perizzites, all of them that are listed in these stories right here in Joshua, that's where all of those peoples came from. They were descendants from Noah, but from his son Ham and Canaan. So that's where all of that comes in at, and they were a reckless people who who made other false gods to talk to pray to, whatever you want to call it, and they were very bad influencers. So and the Jebusites, they were from the city of Jebus. They were descendant of Canaan. The name Jebus means trodden, trampled, or polluted. So I'll just leave that to your imagination as to what you could conclude from those people. The Hittites were descendants of Heth, who was the son of Canaan, the grandson of Noah. So again, we are talking about people who at that time were cursed by Noah. The Hivites, it means a villager, and they lived in the city of Tabath, Tabaath, Tabath. Um, and because, I don't know where that city was, but I think it was up in the hill country as well. The Perizzites, Perizzite, not parasites, Perizzites, were the inhabitants of the open country. So they lived on down in the flat country away from the hills, apparently. And then the Amalekites, even though they're not listed here in this book of Joshua, they were some of the people who irritated Israel from time to time. They were the ones that Israel fought first when they were coming through the desert toward the promised land, and Israel had to fight them. The Amalekites were descendant directly from Esau, and they lived in the hill country at the very southern tip of Israel, just before you get into the Saudi Arabian desert. So that's all of the people that that surrounded that area at the time. And I can see, by giving the meanings of these names and just a little bit of reading and research on who some of these people were, I can understand why God told Joshua and the Israelites, get rid of these people. He did not want these people having any type of influence over the Israelites. He did not want the Israelites adhering to the worship of these false gods. He did not want their mindset. He did not want them to get the mindset of any of the peoples who surrounded this area, because their mindset was false. It was completely out of line with how God wanted the Israelites to live and the people that he wanted the Israelites to be and who God expected the Israelites to be. God expected the Israelites to be a leader. um, he wanted them to be a leader in the world. He wanted, because like he told Abraham, whoever blesses you, I will bless them in return, but whoever curses you, I will curse them in return. Okay. So earlier in the lesson, I mentioned that the reason the Lord had the Israelites completely wipe out the people of the region is because he did not want these people influencing the Israelites in the wrong direction. Because the Israelites, if you notice, when in the book of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, they're going through the wilderness, and I mean, no sooner do they get released, they get to the edge of the waters, and the Egyptians are coming up behind them, and they're already complaining. They hadn't been gone a week, and they're already complaining against Moses. Why did you bring us out here to die? All this kind of stuff. There's no, well, the Lord is releasing us. We're going to trust the Lord to get us out of here and away from the Egyptians. There's none of that. There's only complaining. Okay, so they are a weak people who do not understand the concept of being thankful. They do not understand the concept of true worship to the Lord, to giving God thanks. They have been so influenced by the Egyptians and worshiping their gods, and they have been so influenced by all this other that they get out to the desert. And even though God has proven to them time and time again who he is to them and for them, they still don't quite get it. Okay, so they go across the desert, and every time they come to a place where they have a challenge, they come against a hardship or whatever is going on, instead of them all going to the Lord and praying about it and being thankful and giving that issue to the Lord, they start complaining and they want to get rid of Moses. They want to get rid of the leaders. They automatically want to turn dark. Their hearts go hardened. And God knows this, about that this is their weakness. That they don't automatically turn to him in hardships and in difficult times. And so he knows, because he knows that about them, he knows that when they get to the promised land, it's going to be the same thing over and over again. And these people that are in the promised land, as I said earlier, these are the descendants of Canaan, who is the grandson of Noah. Okay? So these people, the people that are in the land, are cursed. And God does not want these cursed people being an influence on his holy people who are set apart for his purposes. Okay? So we can take that and apply that to our lives today. Now, First Peter chapter 2 verse 9, let's read it. And Peter is speaking to the church, and he's talking about the stone that the builders rejected. So verse 8 said, it's a stone that causes people to stumble and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message, which is also what they were destined for. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So, and it was the same with Israel back then as it is with us now. Before Abraham, there was not a people of God. But God saw Abraham. He saw that Abraham was faithful. He saw that Abraham abhorred the idols of his day. He would not listen to the other gods and did not talk to the idols and all that. And so God began speaking to Abraham, and Abraham heard God. and he followed God and he obeyed God, and God counted it to him as righteousness. And that's what started the people of Israel, because from Abraham came Isaac, from Isaac came Jacob and Esau. Esau did not follow the Lord, but Jacob did. From Jacob came the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay? And the 12 tribes of Israel, okay, Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and that's where we get the children of Israel. And so the children of Israel were to be a theocracy, not a monarchy, not a democracy, none of that. They were supposed to be a theocracy. God was supposed to be their king. And we're going to find out later in the Old Testament where they decide, after having multiple judges, they had had several judges, Samuel being the last one, they decide, we don't want any more judges, we want a king. And so Samuel is talking to the Lord about this. And God tells Samuel, he said, well, they want a king not because they're rejecting you, Samuel, but because they're rejecting me as their king. In those days, Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit, because they did not have a king, they did not have a leader, because Israel, for some reason, they always thought they had to have someone physical in place to be their leader, or they could not be led. They had this idea, we cannot be led by a God who we cannot see. Because remember, when they were out in the desert, Moses went up the mountain and he was gone for 40 days and 40 nights. And what did they do? They built that golden calf, because what did they say? We need something that we can see. We need a leader that we can see. We need a God that we can touch and that we can feel and that we can see. And for some reason they always had this mindset. Well, that's the mindset of the system of this world, not of God. Because the mindset of God is, what does it say in Hebrews, is that when you come to me in faith, you must believe that I am, and that I am a rewarder of those who diligently seek me. God always gave the leaders, whether it was the priests or the elders of the tribes, God gave those leaders the answers that they needed for whatever situation they were in. And that's how he wanted to lead them and be their leader. And that's how he wanted them to be a people. That's how he wants us today as Christians to be his people. He wants us to go to him. And Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. That's what he expected the children of Israel to be at the time of Joshua, at the time of the Judges, at the time of the Old Testament. That's who he expected them to be. That's who he was training them to be. But they had this mindset because they came out of the system of this world, because that's what they continually saw. That's what they grew up in. That's what they saw. That's what they believed. They were having a difficult time switching their mindset from the system of the world to a spiritual mindset, to the mindset that God wanted them to have. And today, Christians, we sometimes, people, when they get saved, they come out of the system of the world and they have a difficult time switching their mindset from the system of the world and the carnal mindset to a spiritual mindset. Romans 8, starting in verse 5, it says, "Those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires. But those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. The mind governed by the flesh is hostile toward God. It does not submit to God's laws, nor can it do so. Those who are in the realm of the flesh cannot please God." Those who are in the realm of the flesh. And you, as a Christian, anyone as a Christian, you should be able to know when you are in the realm of the Spirit and when you are in the realm of the flesh. Okay? You should be able to discern when you're being carnal or fleshly and when you're in the Spirit. Okay? You, however, are not in the realm of the flesh, but are in the realm of the Spirit, if indeed the Spirit of God lives in you. If anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, they do not belong to Christ. But if Christ is in you, then even though your body is subject to death because of sin, the light Spirit gives life because of righteousness. And if the Spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, He who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of His Spirit who lives in you. Therefore, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation, but it is not to the flesh to live according to it. This is what the Lord wanted the Israelites to understand. He didn't want them living according to the peoples who surrounded them. He wanted them to live according to His ways, His standards, His rules, His regulations, His boundaries. God sets boundaries around us for a reason. It's for our safety and our protection. It's not a punishment. Okay, so Paul goes on to say in verse 13, "For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, then you will live. For those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God. The Spirit you received does not make you slaves so that you live in fear again. Rather, the Spirit you received brought about your adoption of sonship, and by Him we cry, Abba, Father." The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's, we are heirs, heirs of God, co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in His sufferings, in order that we may also share in His glory. So, this is how the Lord wants us to live. He wants us to live by the Spirit, not according to the flesh. And living according to the flesh, there are influences in this world today, just like the people of that time during Joshua. The reason the Lord wanted them to annihilate all of those peoples is because there were influences God did not want them to have in their life, because He knew it would lead them astray. He knew it would draw them away from Him and how He wanted them to live. And so today we have influences around us. We have, we have influences on how to eat, how to dress, how much money to make, what kind of a job to get. Social media has influences: TikTok, YouTube, Netflix, Facebook, Instagram. What books are you reading? What movies are you watching? What music do you listen to? Like a singer or a songwriter, a movie star or something? when they get really, really popular and the whole world is talking about them, and that's all you hear on the news media, and you hear all this stuff about them on the news and in social media and stuff, I tend to run the other direction. And I do it on purpose. I do not want to get caught up in the worship of man. Okay? And that's the reason I do that. It's fine to enjoy listening to someone's music, but I purposely do not like to go to concerts and stuff like that because from what I see, concerts, even Christian concerts are supposed to be about worshiping the Lord. But from what I see, it borders on people worship rather than God worship. And if you pay attention, you would see the same thing. Is it wrong to go to a concert? Probably not. But are you worshiping the people who are singing, or are you worshiping the Lord? That's between you and God. If you go to concerts, that's between you and the Lord, what you do and how you do it. Okay? That's all I'm saying. What I am saying is, what is influencing you to go to that concert? Okay? I'm talking about influences. Are you being influenced by the world, or are you being influenced by the Spirit of the Lord? And there are things in our lives today that He just does not really want us to be part of. We need to be careful what we are a part of and what we invite into our lives and why we invite those things into our lives. I think it disturbs me when I hear Christians speaking about popular TV programs that are actually very ungodly. That is disturbing to me. And especially when some of these programs, they mock God, they make fun of the Bible, they make fun of Jesus. And we are not to be partakers in any of those things. So why would you purposely take on the mindset of this world and participate in those things and watch those things and be okay with those things? I don't care how popular they are. Why would you participate in that when you know the Bible asks us not to? Romans 12:1 and 2. It says this. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world any longer, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. You cannot be transformed by the renewing of your mind if you are listening to King of the Hill or SpongeBob SquarePants, Saturday Night Live. How can you be renewed in your mind when you are listening to stupidity? How can I present myself as a living sacrifice if I'm wasting my time with ungodliness and unholiness? For a while, The Simpsons was popular. That's one of the most ungodly cartoons on TV. Why would you waste your time watching it when they make fun? And, stuff like Harry Potter, why would you read those books? Why would you watch those movies? That is witchcraft. It is a sin. Witchcraft is sin. Why are you watching and allowing witchcraft into your mind? Why are you allowing that? That is a sin. That is against the laws of God. Why are you allowing that into your household? And Star Wars, I've watched all the Star Wars movies. I've watched them all, but I came to the conclusion it's new age, it's witchcraft. It's manipulation. It is ungodly. It should have no place in your home. And the Lord convicted me of it. And my Star Wars movies are all gone. And I will not watch them anymore. I did like them for a long time. I did enjoy watching them. But the Lord began to show me the truth behind what those movies are. They are actually promoting witchcraft and new age. They have no place in the home of a Christian. I've never watched the Harry Potter movies. I've never read the books because I know I've seen just from the movie trailers, it's witchcraft. It has no business in the place of a Christian. Am I telling you to watch them or not? No, that's between you and the Lord. But if the Lord puts a conviction on your heart to not watch them, then don't watch them. That's between you and the Lord. But I caution you to be careful with these things. These are influences the Lord does not want his people to have. Why? He wants our influences to come from his word and from the Holy Spirit. We are to be a holy nation, a peculiar people that brings forth his praises. He has called us out of darkness. How are you called out of darkness, but you're promoting witchcraft? How is that? If you're called out of darkness, why would you promote witchcraft and new age? I would hope you wouldn't. I would hope you wouldn't. Finally, brethren, whatsoever is true, whatsoever is noble, whatsoever is right, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put these into practice, and the God of peace be with you all. Amen. That is it for this lesson. I will see you in the next video. You have a great week. Take care. God bless.